Hi there, and welcome to this week's vlog. And this week, really, I want to continue in some respects the theme of last week. If you watched last week, you remember. If you didn't, let me just briefly run through it. It was basically about the theme was perseverance, and I mentioned that I'd recently joined a group called Christian Runners UK, and I was wearing my t-shirt, and I mentioned that on the back was a verse from the scriptures. There it is, and it's from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 1. Let us run with endurance or perseverance the race God has set before us. And I was talking about how sometimes life is a real struggle, and we're called as God's people to perseverance, to press on, whatever the obstacles or struggles that we face. And I want to give a bit of a shout out to two people who commented on the vlog last week. First of all, to somebody called Graham, who as a result has himself joined Christian Runners UK and got a t-shirt, and he's said he's going to start running again after a break of some time. So good on you, Graham. I hope the running goes well. And also to John, who was himself encouraged to endure through some difficult times, and God bless you, John. And for all of us at times face challenges, and there is that temptation, isn't there, to just say, oh, well, what's the use? I might as well just pack it in. Sue, my wife, and I have both had a really nasty cold this week, and that kind of gets you down a bit, doesn't it? But nevertheless, we press on. That's only a small thing compared with what some are facing. Anyway, after I recorded last week's vlog, I did on the Saturday our local park run, and I was wearing my t-shirt, but to be honest, it wasn't so bad, such a strain physically, but mentally I really struggled. And my brain, or part of my brain at least, a significant part of it was saying, oh, this is too hard, just give up, just start walking, never mind running, never mind tiring yourself out, just start walking. Or maybe you could just go home and don't complete the 5k course. But one of the things that kept me going was the verse on the back. And I thought to myself, I can't really stop, can I? I can't give up when I've got a verse on the back of my shirt which says, let us run with endurance or perseverance. I like the word perseverance, but it's similar meaning. Let's run with perseverance the race set out for us. And so I did keep going, and amazingly enough, I got a PB for that course, which I was quite chuffed about. I'm going to try it again tomorrow, despite the fact that I've had a cold this week, and who knows, just try and enjoy it and press on. And I was reminded, of course, that so many people who we know really well and have achieved great success at some element, or some way during their life, they've had real setbacks that could have caused them to give up. And I was reading a booklet this week. It's a book I picked up actually in a Salvation Army charity shop, and it's by the Salvation. It's on prophetic prayer, which is really interesting. But let me read you this paragraph. 3 people who achieved great success but actually did suffer setbacks which could have, if they'd taken it the wrong way, caused them to give up. It says, bad days comes to us all, even the rich, famous and successful. Fred Astaire was once told by an MGM testing director that he couldn't sing, couldn't act, and could only dance a little. And we know how highly Fred Astaire is regarded these days. Steve Jobs, another highly regarded person, creator of such 21st century icons as the iPod and the iPad, actually got fired from Apple a few years after launching the company. A major setback, but think what he achieved. And then finally, Walt Disney. We all know Walt Disney. That mine of quirkiness, which eventually brought forth Mickey Mouse and his friends, was fired by a newspaper editor early in his career because apparently he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. So there's 3 people who achieve, in the eyes of the world at least, great things, and yet at times, a point during their life, they had a major setback. They were put aside, and they could have taken that to heart and given up, but No, they persevered, they pressed on, and so that they achieved all that they were able to achieve. And I want to just encourage you, whatever you're facing, whether it be in your spiritual walk, your walk with the Lord Jesus. I was talking this week with someone who really was struggling with his faith, with his belief in God. He'd experienced real pain in the death of some of those closest and dearest to him. It faced opposition from others, and he was really struggling. Does God actually exist? What is God? Why is God allowing this to happen? And if you're struggling with your faith, with your relationship with God, or in your job situation, or in your relationships, or whatever you're struggling with, I would encourage you to persevere, to press on, knowing that God is for you. I'm preaching this week on on the Gospel of John, chapter 16, part of that chapter, and one of the verses is this. It's some words from Jesus to his disciples. He says this: "In this world you will have trouble," or in the old version, tribulation. So he's saying quite clearly that as followers of his, we will face trouble, difficulty, tribulation. Then he says, "But take heart, I have overcome the world." So ultimately in Jesus we have victory. I want to finish by giving you two quotes that came from a sermon that I heard last Sunday. The first is this: "Suffering will come to an end, but God's promises will not." That's good news, isn't it? Our suffering will come to an end, but God's promises, God's faithfulness will not. And then finally, the final quote: "For the Christian, the worst thing is never the last thing." The worst thing is never the last thing. So I hope that encourages you to know that if you're suffering right now, or if you come in the future to a period of suffering, it's not going to go on forever. It will come to an end. But God's promises will never come to an end. And the worst thing for us is never the last thing, because our hope is in Jesus Christ. So God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.